Hey everyone, we are back to play another classic arcade game. With me as always is Corey. Say hi, Corey.
Hey, how's it going?
And this time, as you can see, it is the classic arcade game Final Fight by Capcom. And to play this game, we're using the Steam version of the Capcom, I think it's called Beat 'em Up Bundle,
hmm
which yeah, it works great for online multiplayer mode, even though we're on two different continents, which is fantastic. Previously, we tried to do the same thing with the Sega Classic Games thing on Steam, and it's probably because I'm in France and Corey is in the U.S. But it was absolutely unplayable when we tried to play the online mode. But the this Capcom bundle on Steam runs really well. But the downside is it does not allow you to pause while you're playing online multiplayer. So there will be very little editing during that. So apologies in advance if there are any
Right.
blunders along the way, or mumbling or stuttering or anything. There's just yeah, it would be really hard for us to do much editing at all, since the game is just going to keep on going and we can't pause or conveniently restart a level or anything like that. But
hmm
without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so let's dive in and start playing. I've got to
All right.
say, there we go, that who will you be? Do you want to be...
Uh, for the fun of it, I'll be Mike Hager.
All right, I'll
So
be Cody for now. Wow, that was the last second. It automatically um, selected our
yeah, it's got a
characters.
timer on it,
Time
right?
limit, yep,
Yeah.
exactly. But I have to say, this game really impressed me back in the day, the first time I saw it in the arcade as a new game.
hmm
The other games of this genre that came before it that I had seen in the arcade were, from a technical and visual standpoint especially, so older and crustier and less impressive. Like, they really used a much more powerful arcade board and, just much more color on screen, drastically bigger character sprites, and in general, a much more cinematic attitude to this game than the predecessors like Double Dragon and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, before this, the street beat 'em up genre was. I don't want to say it was terrible.
yeah, not at
That
all.
people were making some waves with it, but
Yeah,
it hadn't reached this level.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
you know what I mean. So
Respect always to the games that create a
of
whole
course.
genre that came before it, but obviously each successive game can build upon it, and not only do the ideas not only can the ideas get better and better and more refined, but they're also working on ever more powerful hardware so they can just do more. Yeah,
Yeah, and even if you look at like Golden Axe, the first one, which they were kind of outdoing with this game, I would say.
yeah, yeah,
Even though it's a different sort of theme,
right,
Golden Axe had much smaller characters. Still a classic game, but they
yeah,
were clearly telling themselves we've got to make this look a lot nicer
yeah,
and really take advantage of the advances in arcade hardware at the time.
right. And don't worry, everyone. Corey knows that Golden Axe was Sega and this is Capcom.
Right,
But the
right.
point still
Yeah.
stands that the technology and standards kept building.
Yeah, these were competitors, all
Yeah,
these people.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So they were always trying to outdo each other and take influence and keep improving on what everyone else is doing. Kind of like the previous gameplay video we did with that
Oh,
Rastan Saga 3 game, where they
hmm
clearly were very interested and passionate about outdoing Golden Axe. And I would say they succeeded. It's a shame the game never really made it into the States, because I would
Yeah,
have been,
we've
yeah.
still got to play that one sometime because it looked so fun
Yeah.
to
Oh,
me.
that's right.
But
Yeah, we just did a pixel art review. We did not
yeah,
play it. I forgot.
I
Yeah.
didn't actually get my
Yeah.
hands on it in
Yeah.
any form. So, but yeah, yeah, pretty cool. And that one's more akin to Golden Axe, of course. But
Yeah.
this took this sort of redefined the street brawler,
Yeah.
in
For
that
sure.
moment. I think it's so popular, everybody remembers
Yeah.
that was alive then, what it was like to play it,
Yeah.
uh, or see it at the arcade for the first time, and you're just kind of blown away.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That was interesting. I'm surprised my jump kick hit him when you were quite a bit lower and you had grabbed him. Like they're really over generous with those collisions on the vertical axis there. But all right. Oh. Hopefully, I have infinite continues. This seems to be perfect arcade emulation in this Capcom bundle. So hopefully,
I'm not noticing any major lag or anything at all, or just in the multiplayer. But also, just it runs smooth as glass. There's no hiccups or anything.
Yeah.
So
the one way that I would say this game kind of got dethroned as far as I was concerned in the genre was when Streets of Rage 2 came out for the Genesis/Mega Drive. And even though from a graphical standpoint, technically less color on screen, smaller character sprites, just the fact that it had more moves and a more sort of dark and gritty visual style.
The gameplay design and everything was iterated on in a properly, so to speak, from these games. I feel like the later Final Fights, I think I mentioned that before too, where they didn't evolve much. They pretty much just stayed, and that happens. You want to keep it true to the first game.
Yeah.
But Streets of Rage took it to another level of play.
You can mix it up and play with whatever style you want to much more easily with the Streets of Rage 2 and 3.
This guy's dive move always cracked me up.
Who knew the
full chest?
Who knew the pectoralis major muscles were an effective blunt force weapon?
Yeah.
See, they're not stunned because you hit them. They're stunned emotionally that you assaulted them with your pecs.
Like, what's this guy thinking?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know what to think about this.
That's the mayor? He is the mayor, right?
Yeah, exactly.
In the story.
Can I get a lawsuit out of this?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I should say, for sure. The other reason that we decided to do our first play video out of this bundle, which has a lot of excellent games in it, is that Corey and I are working. We develop retro style games, and we're actually working with some other great developers on an actual retro pixel art a beat 'em up game that was influenced heavily by Final Fight and Streets of Rage 2. So it's called Metro Siege, and I'll splice in the corner somewhere or something, or for a short while, some video footage of how that game is looking. And you can always go to BitBeamCannon.com to take a look at our different projects. But we really wanted to, for Metro Siege, take everything that people loved about games like Final Fight and Streets of Rage 2 when they were new, and just continue with going where Streets of Rage 2 left off, with adding even more sophisticated combat, and just even further increasing that sense of influence, that cinematic influence from those late 80s vigilante movies.
Mm-hmm.
So if that kind of stuff interests you, please do check out our website. And apologies if we don't play great. I played this game fairly frequently in the arcade, and when I could get to the arcades back then, and then a few times on emulation over the decades since then. But it's not a game that I don't think either of us has religiously played that much since then on emulator.
I was stuck with that Super Nintendo version as a kid, so I was playing all single player, and the idea of, in the arcades, multiplayer was sometimes you could, sometimes you couldn't sort of scenario. Maybe there was somebody around and maybe there wasn't.
Right. And then it really is, you'd be surprised if you never did it, how hard it is to not play poorly while you're also trying to talk. It really is much more challenge. Let's see if we could lure him into your sword by me staying behind you. Seems to be working somewhat.
Oh, I never noticed that skull and bones on the floor there.
Oh yeah. Well, it's certainly appropriate for, not that Saddam is a pirate that I know of, but it is certainly deadly to be trying to fight someone with your fisticuffs, your bare fists when they have two swords.
They were considerate and let you get his swords, but
yeah,
it's still sure. Initially you're like, what am I supposed to do? He's got armor too. He's got like a helmet and everything.
Yeah. Oh, it's the start button to there we go, to continue. I'd be very afraid. Make sure you don't accidentally just keep hitting the A button to continue, because if you make the timer run out, you might not be able to join in ever again. Hopefully you can, but boy, that would ruin this video recording session. But I don't remember if I finished.
I would imagine you still could, though, because it's hopefully. Like the arcade. Someone could just join in the middle of a game. So
yeah, hopefully so.
But not worth testing.
The original full title of this game was going to be Final Fight: Fists of Steel. Just kidding.
Weren't they? Weren't they originally going to make this like a Street Fighter game? Mm-hmm. Like I thought they were. It was going to be in that with that title, but they decided to change it.
Yep, to make it its own thing. I can't remember why, but there was a very specific reason they decided not to. And I do like how they kind of went full circle with that idea, and later Street Fighter games introduced some of the characters like Cody into the Street Fighter roster. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if I finished my thought earlier, but like in Metro Siege, we're taking the sophistication of the gameplay and moveset higher by adding blocking and counterattacks, and also hitting enemies while they're down. There's several ways to do that, including a high-risk maneuver where you do like a flying elbow drop or knee drop, but the enemy might roll out of the way or get up out of the way while you're in the air, and if you slam down onto the pavement to trying to do your move that does a lot of damage to them while they're down. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no
problem. Then you'll hurt yourself a little bit, and of course you'll be prone for a second while you're recovering from that, so that enemies can hit you. So that's the kind of more modern nuance taking from games that came out much after Final Fight and Streets of Rage 2, like like Tekken and King of Fighters and stuff like that. Just adding that extra level of sort of combat strategy and just a bigger moveset.
Yeah, it adds to the replay value for sure, because you can try different ways of playing.
Yeah, exactly.
And this game still has good replay value, but it's it has its basic moves, and that's about as far as it goes. So.
And you can definitely choose a different character. Like Mike Hager plays quite differently from Guy or Cody. Guy and Cody aren't too dissimilar. Hagar's definitely the more different one. But you can't really, with any one character, I can't replay as Cody and really play with a drastically different style, like being more defensive or more offensive, or using counterattacks since they don't exist, or footwork. That's another thing that exists in Metro Siege, is there's a hop forward, a hop back, and you could use those in conjunction with special counterattack moves and stuff like that. Which give you just a lot more options to say, okay, I want to play with this kind of style. I want to, I want my killing blow, so to speak, against most enemies to be a certain type of move or a specific move. Right. Like in Streets of Rage 2, there was a headbutt that you could do as part of the grab sequence. And I used to occasionally... I called it the kiss of death. I would make sure that I killed enemies with that move. So I'd get their meter down, however, and then grab them and make sure I initiate the headbutt instead of just the regular knees. Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean. The more moves and the more sophisticated the fighting mechanic, the more the player can really play based on the mood they're in or what they'll have more fun with. Kind of like modern games. I love this is a totally different kind of game, but the the franchise Dishonored, which is like a 3D first person game that is ostensibly a stealth game, but you could play the game in a really chaotic, just no stealth mode, which makes the game a lot harder because then everyone knows you're there and is out to kill you. But you totally can play the game like that, and it's a totally different play experience.
Yeah.
So I love it when games offer that kind of flexibility to really let the player, you know, you're kind of vicariously living through in this fake world through this fake character. It's pretty cool that you can really express yourself to such a large degree in the way that you're playing.
Yeah, the more options there, without it getting too unruly, yeah, it gets better in that way. Is this like a lot of the old traditional arcades? I imagine like if we couldn't be the same character, like we'd always have to be two different people. Okay,
yeah,
I was thinking it was that way.
Yeah,
but
I don't think, unless there's a secret, I really don't think both players can select the same character. You can do that in Metro Siege. I don't know yet if I think we decided it's going to be like something you easily unlock, like the first time you ever beat the game. Then,
I think that's worth, definitely worth having in.
Definitely, and
just adds more of variety,
And they're going to be they're going to have different colored clothing alternatives, so you could easily tell each other apart. Or, like if you're both Cody, well, there's no Cody, but our version of Axel / Cody is Alex, because the programmer of Metro Siege is named Alex. We thought it was a nice, fun play on the, like the quintessential beat 'em up, blonde, average stat, like a balance of speed and strength and all that stuff.
Yeah, the guy from all those 80s.
Exactly. Exactly.
He's the,
Yeah. So, that is another thing I could point out about Metro Siege is we're very specifically designing the game to be a sort of an homage and our spin on not only these games, so the cast of characters will be fairly familiar and just with more moves and, different name and stuff like that, but you'll definitely see it'll be very familiar. It'll just take a lot of things to the next level. Like I said, having been influenced by the games that came the years and decades after these games sort of established the genre. Mm-hmm. And then I forgot what the main point of the whole thing was going to be.
Well, it's like you said, we can draw from other stuff too, like even like that Knights of the Round game.
Oh, sorry about that.
Inspired by the gameplay.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the controls.
For the blocking and countering, exactly.
Yeah, so we do get that benefit, but also like, the idea of making sure that everything is within the realm of not only the limitations of whatever system hardware, but also just as quality as it can be. I mean, we know, seeing the best of the best over the years, what each piece of hardware can really do, given that you put the time and effort into it. So it's about achieving that as well as possible.
So I remember now what my main point was going to be. So in Metro Siege, you start in like outside urban city streets, and then you go down a subway. So it's all stuff that you're going to find very familiar from Final Fight and all the other games, going back as far as like Vigilante and stuff like that. It's just our spin on it and adding little extra cinematic touches and visual flair and stuff like that didn't exist in the other games. But it's very specifically designed to be that kind of very familiar homage, and not like, we're being creative for the sake of creativity, so there's outlandish stuff. Kind of like in Streets of Rage 2, you're in a fun house, you're in an amusement park, and you go into like a fun house, and then there's like what seem like actual extraterrestrials you're fighting out of nowhere. And then you beat that extraterrestrial, and then there's no more alien stuff in the rest of the game. Or the franchise,
to me, the sort of aesthetic or theme, like you can get away with that in like a Ninja Turtles game or something.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm fighting pizza monsters,
Exactly.
But you establish a sort of the things that these games are drawing inspiration from. You want it to feel grounded in that to a degree, And yeah, Streets of Rage 2, it was getting a little in those weird zones of, oh, look, this underground base that's 10 miles below.
Yeah, and then in Streets of Rage 3, you were playing against a lot of the enemies in the later levels were robots. So it just, to me, that kind of detracted from the game a little bit.
Yeah.
But Streets of Rage 2 for a long time was, to me, the sort of best pinnacle of the genre that you could play on a console before emulators. Capcom did make some fighting games after Final Fight that really did raise the bar in gameplay and graphics. One of them I'm sure we'll do a video of relatively soon was Warriors of Fate. Aliens versus Predator is fantastic. I don't think that's on this bundle. That's a shame. We'll have to figure out another way to get it.
That was an arcade?
Yeah. I'm almost certain that was also Capcom.
Because there was a Super Nintendo version of that, but I didn't know if it was ported from an arcade or not. But that's a pretty fun game.
Yeah, and that has special moves too, like quarter circle forward and the attack button, or down and then up fast, and the attack button would get out special moves and stuff like that. Adds a lot. And then one of the other games is Knights of the Round, which is on this bundle, which I'm sure we'll play. Boy, I'm really sucking against Rolento here. Like even more than the rest of the video so far.
I'm glad we can play through without like a pound of quarters in our pocket.
Yeah.
That's...
It would add drama. Like, can Mike get out of his chair, fish the quarter out of his pocket, and continue before the timer runs out?
That was a true moment of anxiety for lots of people in arcades. Or realizing you didn't have any more.
Well, yeah, it's the token thing. It's like, oh crap, I need to run to the token machine, put the money in. Come on, machine, come on. It spits back out the dollar instead of taking it. And you're like, no, the timer's running out. I can't continue. And then you finally get back. You think it's in time, but someone got onto the machine and continued for where you left off before you got back. Well, I totally missed breaking all this. Yeah, you have to hit it dead center or it'll spin and hit you. But anyway, who cares? Bonus points. Who needs them? Bonus points
bonus stage. Okay.
Yeah, bonus points are overrated.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, put those in the level. Let me use them to hit enemies,
Oh, the big sheets of glass?
Yeah, something, if it's just there to destroy, it's less satisfying than fighting the guys, for sure.
Right. One thing I've not used at all yet until right now, you've already done it, which is that pec attack, pectoral bash move. But if you, as Cody or Guy, if you hold down an attack while you're jumping, instead of doing your jump kick, it'll do a knee in the case of Cody that'll stun the enemy instead of knock them down. So that's one way that you could do a little bit of a combo sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was doing that a little bit in Streets of Rage 2 with Blaze. Like, she's got
they all do.
Like a lighter kick or something. I can't remember if it was a knee exactly, but something like that where you could lead into a combo with it. Yeah, it's very nice tactic. So. Yeah.
And Metro Siege does have that same thing as well. We like everything that I've loved over the years in Streets of Rage 2 is in Metro Siege, including the ability with really careful timing. You could jump backward. If you tap the jump button without holding a direction and then immediately, once you're in the air, by a few pixels, press or tap a direction, then you'll actually jump backwards. Which is cool because if someone is charging at you or doing an attack at you, you could jump back out of the way and then kick them in the face. Like, it's a really nice evasive counterattack thing if you get good at it. So those kinds of subtleties really add a lot, like I said, to sort of replay value or just...
Yeah, it gives you that, like, I got so far or beat it even, but I know I could do it better, or faster,
or just with a different style to me to move, or like even within a single gameplay. Oh, I need to get the roast beef there or whatever that is. There we go. Okay. Yeah, just that kind of stuff. It keeps it from getting too repetitive and mundane. The more moves you have, you could just sort of go, halfway through the game. Oh yeah, I have this move sequence I can do. I haven't done so much, or now I want to start really showing off by beating the enemies by counterattacking them, or stuff you just can't do when there's a super limited move set. Oh wow, we both had to continue at the same time.
Yeah.
That was slightly scary due to no pause.
Yeah. Well, the dynamite was,
I wonder if there's a secret for stage select in this Capcom bundle, so that if we, it certainly seems like the continues are unlimited. Thank goodness. Mm-hmm. But if not, hopefully we'll find some kind of secret way to do level select so we can finish the video. I hate Let's Plays or long plays where the people playing don't actually beat the game. They die ahead of time and run out of continues. It's like, why'd you let me sit through like a half hour of you guys playing something only to, have you fail? I don't watch that to get to a game over screen. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. Yeah, you want to be successful. If it is basically unlimited tries or quarters, then it would be meaningless to worry about it too much as far as getting through. It would just be a matter of time. But
exactly.
But I don't know. But in a way, with these arcade classics, there's so much to see anyways. You're getting a lot out of it, even if you can just play all you want.
Yeah.
But Streets of Rage was a bit of a nail biter in that regard, because it's like, we only got so much, and it's got the cheat where you can get more lives and stuff, but
right. But a lot of people back in the day didn't know about the cheat, and even the cheat gives you 9 lives per 3 continues, but I don't think you can increase the number of continues. But you can also do a stage select, so between the two, you can definitely beat the game once you know that the secrets are there.
There we
go. Get that health, and then I kill you. Excellent.
And then I get it after.
Yeah, that's all right. We have seemingly unlimited continues. So, aside from annoying players that have played this game a lot more than us, that are going to be like, "Oh man, these people suck." Like, I know that can be annoying to watch a Let's Play of people absolutely sucking. So hopefully we're not doing too bad, and the conversation is interesting enough to keep.
Yeah, usually it's when you do these. For a lot of gamers, it is like that point of pride of, look how well I can play, and there's some impressive videos like that out there.
Yeah.
But we're more in line of giving our commentary.
Yeah.
Based on what we're doing, because this is another one of those inspiring games. That for Metro Siege and just other things too. I mean, this really, other than Street Fighter, this really helped launch Capcom into what they were, and then they were able to continue on with console games and stuff into the 90s. Make some masterpieces, really. Not everything was, but a lot of it was.
Yeah, they really were the trend setter for the combat, like the hand-to-hand combat games between the fighting genre of Street Fighter and then the beat-em-up genre with Final Fight. Like, they weren't the first ones to do a beat-em-up. There was those really old ones like Vigilante and Double Dragon, but they did it really well and made it really popular, and everyone after them copied them to a large degree.
Yep.
But anyway, don't get me wrong, like, while I really like and appreciate the Street Fighter franchise, I'm one of those crazy King of Fighters SNK fans. Like, those games are fantastic.
Those games are beautiful, and even the Samurai Showdown series was it's very different, but that was a very beautiful series of games too.
There's a sadly
it's hard to give Capcom all the fighting game credit. That's for sure. Yeah.
But they sort of set the trend, and everyone was copying them to a large degree. Like, they raised the bar, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other people definitely did rise to that challenge. Specifically, over and over again, SNK just had some amazing games. Speaking of Samurai Showdown was very popular. It's a shame there's a lesser-known Samurai series by SNK that is absolutely gorgeous, which is called Last Blade. There's Last Blade 1 and 2, You want to
Yeah,
see incredible pixel art.
you
Yeah,
I believe you were the one who told me about that one, and I
yeah.
checked it. Yeah, that's a beautiful
Gorgeous.
game.
And I
Yeah.
have a feeling it's the same team that made Last Blade 2 that made, or largely the same art team at least, that made Goro Mark of the Wolf, which is kind of like the last King of Fighter franchise fighting games. And
Hmm.
that too, just absolutely gorgeous. If you want to see the pinnacle of 16-bit pixel art, Last Blade 2 and Goro Mark of the Wolf are absolutely gorgeous games.
Yeah, it makes me wonder because I haven't really looked if there is a SNK version of this
Yeah,
sort of bundle, or if they've tried it, or if it doesn't
yeah,
exist yet. Because that would be another one. Because this was a really worthwhile bundle, I think.
yeah.
It came with
It
some
really
good
is.
classics. It wasn't too high priced, and it
Yeah, yeah,
works well.
exactly.
So yeah, I would
Yeah,
love to see more of this kind of thing because there were lots of those arcade classics that, unless
yeah,
you're
absolutely.
gonna emulate them or something, they're kind of like there's not anything that they're on unless, and you might get a crappy port of one or two of them,
Right,
here and
exactly.
there, but I want to see more of this wave of stuff because yeah,
Yeah,
there were some beautiful lesser known SNK games
yeah.
on Neo Geo. So
Yeah, I was especially pleasantly surprised with this bundle. Not only is every game in it very high quality, there's only
mhm.
one that we kind of, neither of us really have interest in. It still might be perfectly high quality, it's just not up our alley stylistically, so to speak. But,
Right.
there's just a lot of great games. And then the online multiplayer, after being so disappointed with how poorly the Sega classic game online support was, at least in our situation where I'm in France and you're in the US, it was completely
Hmm.
unplayable. So this is so incredibly. I mean, I feel like you might as well be sitting in the room with me. There's no detectable lag as far as I can
No,
tell.
this is yeah, it works very well. I know
Yeah.
people that have long had high speed internet and done
Hmm.
online gaming. They're
Hmm.
a lot of them are used to that sort of thing, but a lot of it is on the software end,
Yeah.
how it's implemented. But
Yeah.
it's quality. I don't
Yeah.
have the best internet connection myself, but
Yeah.
it's working well. So
And almost no one in France has really great internet compared. I can remember like 15 years ago being in the US in a small, very small city, and the cable internet was fantastic. Like,
yep.
I shouldn't be in a modern first world country and be like fondly remembering internet from 15 years ago because it was so
Yeah,
much better.
yeah.
But what are you gonna do? From what I know, like Japan and the U.S. have fantastic. Like obviously, there are kind of like boondock areas of the U.S. that don't offer such great internet. But
Yeah,
if
it's
you're in a major city in the
a little
U.S.,
bit where I'm at. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like there's certain things I can't get here, so to speak,
yeah,
but it's like this is great.
yeah,
You would think it wouldn't take a massive amount
yeah,
of internet bandwidth to do something like this.
right,
So I think that's more a matter of how you're going to implement it. And the Sega one,
yeah.
I don't know. I imagine maybe it's kind of got some bloated net code or something
Yeah.
that they're just very inefficient or something. I don't
Well,
know.
I've actually been learning more about it and thinking more about it because I've been working with Alex, the programmer of Metro Siege, to get online multiplayer working in Metro Siege. And one of the basic ways that you can do it, which is like very straightforward, is you're literally every time data is pinged back and forth between the players, you're sending to the game the actual input data, like, oh, someone is pressing forward now, or the attack button, or the jump button. And it
Mhm.
waits to make sure it gets the player input from both players, and then it updates the screen to the next screen update and stuff like that. But the problem is when you do it that way, and it makes perfect sense, and you think, oh, yeah, that's a tiny amount of data. You've got only like 8 or 6 different buttons, and only so many possible combinations. Like you can't really press up and down at the same time on the D-pad, so it's very little data. But the problem is, if I'm in France and you're in, even the speed of light isn't fast enough to have a 60 frames per second game, and like every ping back and forth send all of the input data. So you have to do some pretty clever stuff to get even high-speed internet working well on a game like this. You have to use trickier methods to basically be sending updates, so you don't have to make it wait for actual input. You're actually sort of cheating and sending the data, which can be less frequently, of, well, what's the state of each character right now? Oh, well, he's jumping in the air and he's so high off the ground and he's playing this animation. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like way more data, but the point is you don't have to ping it back and forth every frame before you can update the screen. Because if the character is jumping, you know their inertia, you know their animation they're playing, so you can continue that animation and stuff without the up to the split second data.
Yeah, that was how they were able to make the early MMOs and stuff work. Yeah, the online RPGs and stuff. It's because it wasn't any sort of twitchy gameplay. It was you know, your character was just, you were giving them a queue of commands to like attack their opponents and stuff, and that's way slower than like, you know,
you don't need
frame
data
accurate button presses sort of thing. Yeah, so it depends on the type of game too that you're making, I would say. But yeah, this kind of game, you got to have that. But yeah, it definitely does feel like we're, you know, like it's no. We're definitely not on other sides of the planet, you know?
Yeah, exactly. They did a great job. Really gotta
give them a compliment.
Yeah. This is one of an incredibly small number of games or game bundles that I would heartily recommend, especially to someone with like a friend or a relative, you know, across the country or across the globe these days, that you want to be able to play with like you used to back when, you know, like I look forward to... hopefully my brother will get this bundle and we'll be able to play some of these games sometimes like we used to when we were kids, you know?
Yeah, a lot of them are 3 or 4 player, and we can get other people involved too. Yeah, it'd be a blast. So.
Silence as we actually... We need to focus for these chandeliers, people. That's why we're quiet. You know, they're really tricky with that whole gravity thing and falling straight down.
They really did not get very imaginative with the anything other than fighting goons in this game. It's like chandeliers, like the barrels are kind of bland, you know, as well. It's like, oh, just rolling barrels, you know. It's so.
Yeah.
I understand it's a very minor complaint, but it does feel, compared to what you could do in these games, you know, it's feels a bit mundane.
They were definitely going for visual quality and just overall quality and not creativity. Like, you know, it's like, hey, let's make our version of Double Dragon, but bigger sprites, better drawn stuff, more colors on screen. They really, I mean, if I recall from Double Dragon, it's not like they really increased the moveset any. And again, Double Dragon...
In fact, with Double Dragon, they kept changing it up. It's like every game, the controls were different, so you kind of we're getting messed up each game.
I was talking about
even
Double
though
Dragon
I do have fond memories of Double Dragon 2 on the NES, and 3's pretty good as well. Yeah. It's a lot more difficult, but it has its issues too. You know, it's...
You really need to enjoy Double Dragon 3. You really need to be playing with a really good player, or be a really good player yourself. Like, I got to play with my brother, who was really good at games in general and fighting games especially, and so we.
Well, I was gonna say, in my experience, I always disliked it because of its difficulty, but at the same time, I never tried to get really skillful with with someone else. So maybe that is one we could try sometime. You know, like just to give it a go, because maybe it would help me appreciate the game more, because I never really got much into that, like too far into it. You know? Yeah,
some games like that are really sort of divided in the whether people like love it or hate it. And it's specifically because of that. Like, it's so specifically a 2-player oriented game. And if you're playing with a good player that can carry you, or the both of you can get pretty good, then it's fun enough to be worth it to play until you get really good at it, and then it's really fun. But if it's one player and it just has that really steep learning curve, and you're not like having the fun and challenge of playing with a partner, it's just there's way less incentive to get good enough in the first place. So you see that if you like Google people's opinions about Double Dragon 3 on the NES. Most people hated it because it was so hard. But I had a different experience because my brother and I had a history of playing some pretty darn hard two-player games. Like there's a fairly legendarily hard shmup on the Amiga called Blood Money. We had a blast playing that game, but it was really hard. And I probably would not have liked the game if it weren't for the fact that I could play with my brother, and he was so good he would carry my less good ass through the game, and we'd still be able to beat the game every time we played it. So that really helps. You know what I mean? Enjoyment factor.
Yeah, you sort of you encourage each other to carry on, sort of thing.
Exactly.
That sort of
and learn from each other, and you have more incentive to try again to, as a team, kick the game's butt. You know what I mean? And one player, it's just like, there's other things I can do that I'll just have more fun.
Yeah.
So why am I going to invest in it?
Yeah, you'll be sitting there and it's like, why am I playing this? I've got a million other games over here I've been meaning to play by myself, that I can spend whatever time on. And
and if you're playing Double Dragon 3 in one-player mode and not having fun, you can pick any one-player game that's designed to be fun in one-player mode. You know what I mean? So you could pick any two-player or one-player game that is just more fun to play. So, but yeah, if you did get really good at it and have a partner, it was a fantastic quality game and a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. And the Double Dragon didn't seem to carry on beyond the 8-bit days too well. I mean, I know they went into Super Nintendo and stuff, but it never
it lost my
never made the
interest
impact that it could have over time.
Yeah, there were too many games, too many franchises by that point that had outshined it. Had cooler character design, better art, more moves, all of those things, more creativity. And by that time, it was just, there were too many other things. Oh, talking about super hard fighting games and the 8-bit Nintendo, the truly legendary one that was super high quality but insanely hard was Battletoads.
Yes.
But man, was that an impressive game from a technical standpoint for the 8-bit Nintendo. And it was high quality and a lot of fun, but it was so insanely challenging. I don't even think we ever got through that whole game.
I didn't. I don't think I ever did. Yeah.
That's another one. 2-player makes it worth spending more time with, but if I were only playing it alone, I would have just said screw this. They just didn't. Its difficulty level would have been much more just a giant game design mistake or flaw in the game. Well, there we go. That actually didn't take that long at all, did it?
No. With 2 players, I guess
game.
You can power through.
Yeah. So, that's it. We didn't say much about the graphics other than it really raised the bar for the time. Very competent stuff. It was obvious to me even back in the day, even though I didn't understand the technology or terminology. It just had a much higher color fidelity and number of on-screen colors and bigger characters. So it really made a big impression on the people that saw it. But I don't think there's that much more to say about it. Like you had said, Corey, the character design and stuff is all pretty mundane.
Yeah, I think that this game... there might have been a mentality of sort of playing it safe with this game because they wanted to get everything right, so they didn't want to overdo any one aspect of it. You know what I mean? So it made the impression it needed to. Yeah. But they also were like, we want to make sure we get this out when we need to, and because they were clearly trying to establish not just a franchise, but really up this genre. So when you do that with the first of something, it kind of you have to have a little bit of that mindset.
Yeah, and there really is a risk too if you get too creative with the overall theme, or you just start getting really outlandish. You can actually start chipping away at the potential fan base or customers or players, because you're starting to go, like even something like Golden Axe, which is really cool. Certainly the reason that they had the courage to do that game, which I guarantee was a very high budget game for the time, was because the Conan movie made it a popular theme and franchise. So, like,
Right.
very often video games back then were based on the popularity of Hollywood movies, which was why, like, this game, you could tell they did play it safe. They took extremely heavy influence from the vigilante movies of the day. There's one in particular, I think it's called something like The Warriors or something, that clearly was a big influence.
Yeah.
I'll have to double check the name of that. I don't remember for sure. But in
I think that
general,
was the name of it.
yeah. They're just going really safe and just upping the standards, upping the quality. They just took the Warriors and they took Double Dragon, they mixed it together. But ironically, that's an extremely similar attitude to what I had when I was sort of designing Metro Siege, like the characters and the overall mood of the world is just take all this stuff that you know and love. So like wrestling was huge in the 80s when they made this, like, you know, fake, no offense any of wrestling fans, fake American wrestling was huge. So like that's the most outlandish thing in this game is you have you know, a wrestler mayor with his weird outfit with the suspenders. But back then that wasn't outlandish at all because back then before it was World Wildlife Fund, WWF wrestling was huge. So it didn't feel out of place at all. So and that's what kind of we're doing with Metro Cities. Just take all this stuff, making it a little less campy, but pulling even more influence from that cinematic vigilante movie kind of vibe, but also just enhancing the gameplay up to more modern standards, just adding a bit more complexity, a bigger move set and stuff like that. Yeah. But anyway, I think, unless you have any final thoughts, Corey, I think that wraps this up pretty nicely.
No, I don't think so. A very fun game and a classic, but I would say that some of the other stuff on the bundle are better games than this. So,
Yeah.
because they came after, you know.
Yeah, stay tuned for those. I can't wait. There's one in particular that I'm really excited to do that was a sort of hidden treasure to me. I saw screenshots of it for years once I really got into emulation and just always ignored it. It's what's it called? Armored Warriors, I think.
I think Armored Warriors, yeah.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, I didn't know what to expect either because I don't think I had ever seen it.
Yeah.
And it's, wow, yeah.
I was always
Really impressive.
attracted to good pixel art, even back then before I became a pixel artist. And yet, somehow, every screenshot I ever saw just didn't impress me. And every other robot and mech game, action game back then, didn't hold my interest. It was kind of slow. It was kind of clunky. You know, just not really well executed and not really creative. And the robots weren't really cool. And then once we got this bundle, I was just showing my kids each of the games in the bundle. So I'm like, oh, well, I might as well show them this too. Maybe they'll be interested. And immediately I was like, whoa, this has some of the best cinematic work, best pixel art, and some of the best looking gameplay out of the entire bundle. It really shocked me. So
yeah, it's
yeah.
And the thing is, they even do the thing with, like, they give you a little bit of delay on the controls to make you feel the weight of the mechs, but it's like they
Not too
don't
much.
overdo it. It's still very playable. Yeah, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll do a video of that soon, so we'll go deeper into that. But very cool game, so we're excited to get into that and give it a play and go into its graphics and stuff like that more deeply. Like, there's a lot to talk about in that game with the graphics, the pixel art, and the animation. But anyway, we will end it there. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.
If you enjoy our content and want to keep up to date on our games, please leave a like and subscribe. Also, if you want to support our projects, consider becoming a patron. The link's in the description, and we'll see you soon.